So this is the Galaxy Z Flip 5G. In a world of brick smartphones, it's perhaps one of the most adventurous to hit the market lately. The biggest selling point is a uniquely designed hinge and a flexible screen that can fold completely in half. And what counts as the most unique selling point on a phone is also the most controversial, and the reason behind doing this review. So the ability to fold your phone in half goes completely against everything we've always known about smartphones. The initial concept of this review was literally just going to be me screaming into the camera as I watch myself fold this phone in half, because it is so jarring to see the first couple of times you do it. However, over my time with this phone, I've come to accept and enjoy the folding of this phone. Overall, it's a beautiful phone, coming in gray, or in my case, the Mystic Bronze color, featuring a chrome hideaway hinge that slowly uncovers the Samsung logo with a unique design that is built much more premium than your typical hinge. And given that that hinge is a unique selling point, it's a good place to start the review. So the phone itself has a bumper around the display that you can see right here, and that is to stop it from making contact with each side of the screen. It also allows it to prevent itself from any accidental cracks from things like dust or sand getting into the phone once you do actually start to close it. And surprisingly, the display itself actually is made of glass, despite what you might think. The glass itself is thin enough, of course, that it is able to bend like this. Now, because the glass is so thin though, when you're pressing on it, it does feel sort of plastic and sort of cheap. And in fact, it's one of the first things I noticed as a negative about this phone is the feeling of that glass if you're used to a traditional smartphone which has a thicker glass like an iPhone. Certainly not a deal breaker, but it took some time to get used to. The phone comes in this minimal square portfolio, but unfolds itself to a massive 6.7-inch AMOLED display, rendering rich true blacks and an extremely bright display. The one thing I noticed about this phone is that when unfolded, the screen is actually a strange size. This is immediately evident when comparing it to, say, an iPhone. The aspect ratio is wildly different than what you'd expect. This means that in portrait mode, you're going to see more than you ever have before on a smartphone, longer text message conversations, or even larger web pages if that's what you're viewing. But in landscape mode, that's where it gets evident that this isn't your typical ratio. You're going to see large bezels on the screen when watching video and less zoomed in. If you're zoomed in, it's going to be much more cropped than you would expect. Again, these aren't deal breakers, but definitely things that you're going to have to get used to if you did choose this phone. The other thing to notice about this display is that it has that massive crease in the middle, as it's something you're constantly folding. Now, when it's turned on and you're looking directly at the display, it completely disappears, meaning the only way you'll notice is when it's partially folded, when you see all of the light coming through the crease, or the feeling of it when you're swiping through anything. It is, however, noticeable when you're looking at it from a side profile, which of course is less of a concern for you if you're using the phone. And all of this is really to say that the hinge itself, not as intrusive as people have made it out to be or people thought it originally would be. And the only large thing to get over when you first get this phone is that feeling of the thin glass and the sort of plastic feeling that I wasn't expecting. Now, getting to the back of the phone, or the front, or the outside, this part. Here you'll see the outer display. It's minimal in both looks and functionality, and while that sounds like a bad thing, I actually don't think it is. So tapping the wake button or double tapping the screen itself, you can see the clock. You'll see a red dot on the left side if there's notifications, and as you swipe to the right, you'll see all of your music actions. Swipe all the way to the left, and you'll see your 3 most recent notifications. Tapping on an icon will show you the notification details for a limited time before shutting off. Now, many other reviews have raised the point that this screen actually does not stay on as long as you'd want it to, making reading longer messages or notifications harder to do. But if you tap on the notification, then when you open the phone, it's actually going to show you that app in more detail. So I wouldn't think of the front of this display as something functional, but more of a quick glance to decide whether you want to actually read more into that notification. Now, while I do wish the display was larger on the front, obviously, or had more customization options, because currently it has none, I did find it really useful for that quick glance action to decide whether I needed to see or respond to notifications. I think of it very similar to how I used to use my Apple Watch just to quickly glance at things rather than actually diving in and doing anything functional. Of course, you've also got the option to double tap the side button and pull up your camera, and you're able to take photos without even opening the phone. This is a nice touch, although I didn't find myself using it option, it was a functional feature to have available. So the overall performance of this device is fantastic, and using it in my day-to-day life, it was everything I would expect from a flagship phone from Samsung. From quickly unlocking the phone with the face sensor or the fingerprint sensor, to swiping quickly through apps, to general responsiveness. Powered by a Snapdragon 865 processor, the Galaxy Z Fold is up to the challenge. It's actually the same processor that's currently powering the Samsung Galaxy S20, the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro, and the Realme X50 Pro. So you can expect some pretty similar performance to those. Now, charging is the interesting thing with this phone, as you have two hidden batteries, one on each side of the phone. Now, you can obviously charge through your USB-C, which is standard at the bottom, or you can use wireless charging. The charging coils, of course, are only on the bottom of this phone, so if you set it on the top, it's not going to charge. That's something to keep in mind. So you do have to make sure that you're facing this thing the correct orientation when you're putting it down on a wireless charger. Not a deal breaker, but I wish there was a way to have the coils on both sides of this phone so that I didn't have to worry about the way that I was setting it down when quickly putting it on a charger. Additionally, an important note is that with most phones, you have the wireless charging coil in the center of the phone, meaning when you put it on a charger, you have to align it so that it's directly in the center. But because the profile of this phone is so small when collapsed, it's very easy to align it as the whole bottom is that coil. So you no longer have to worry about moving it around constantly, and that was a feature that I actually enjoyed. In fact, in my testing, I was actually able to align it perfectly every time I put it on the charger. It also helps that the Galaxy Z Fold includes a reverse wireless charger, meaning you can put other wireless charging devices onto it and charge them through your phone. And while I didn't use this feature often, primarily because of battery concerns, which I'll get to in a moment, I did like that the feature was included and hope to see it on future iterations of the device. I would also expect more smartphone manufacturers to be adding that feature in to this year's lineup of phones. Now, like I just mentioned, battery life was the one big concern that I have with this phone and really using it long-term as my main driver. So I found that while I'm a power user of my phone, I wasn't able to get through a full day on just one charge. I found that usually by 2 or 3 p.m., I was charging this again just to make it through to the end of the day. The battery itself is 3,300 milliamps, which is not a small battery at all. However, but powering a 6.7-inch AMOLED display, a secondary outer-facing display, and all the features that are packed in, Galaxy Z Fold falls victim to its own features. I suspect if you are not a power user on your phone and you're just casually using it to text and browse the internet, then you'll probably make it through the whole day with this phone with just enough battery to make it to bed. Well, if you're thinking about picking this up, I would recommend picking up a power bank as well, just to be safe. So over my time using the Galaxy Z Flip 5G, I've had to overcome a larger barrier, which was switching from iPhone to Android. And what I found during testing was that the flexibility of this phone really represented the flexibility and customization of Android as a whole. The variety of models on an Android that you can get allow the inspiration for people to develop something like this. And there really is something nostalgic about using a flip phone like this, but bringing it into what a modern smartphone should be. So is the Z Fold something that you should buy? Now, despite what everybody is saying in their reviews, I'd actually advise yes. Of course, this yes is assuming two things. One, that you have the money to spend on a foldable phone like this, and I would definitely look for deals on them as they do come out. And two, you don't need a long-lasting battery, or you're not a power user of your phone. The Z Fold is innovative, and I'm excited to see where foldable phones grow over the next few years as more manufacturers incorporate their take on the modern flip phone. If you want to pick this up or see more information, check out the links in the description. While you're down there, remember to hit the like button because it tells YouTube that videos like this don't suck, and hit the subscribe button to see more videos like this from me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.